Imagine this. You have invested money, effort, and your soul into your own business for years, and then you lose it because of one single mistake. Sounds unbelievable? Reality is harsher. 70% of Fortune 500 companies disappeared in the last 15 years, and small businesses often don't make it to 5 years. Do you know what giant corporations and tiny startups have in common? Without a clear plan, they're all doomed to spin like a hamster on a wheel, trying to put out fires instead of actually growing the business. According to McKinsey, 92 out of 100 entrepreneurs admit they're unhappy with their strategic planning system. But here is the good news. If you fix that gap and learn to build strategy properly, you can not only avoid disaster, you can give your business a powerful boost. Today, we will review how your strategy is doing personally, how to get into the happy 8%, and most importantly, why your business needs this. Let's go! If this topic resonates and you want to manage growth systematically, subscribe right now. It's the best way not to miss the follow-ups. Hi friends! You're on the channel Making Business Simpler, where technology meets ideas. I'm Anastasia Impiridi, founder of SKALAR Global, which has expertise of 20 years in digital transformation. And today we are launching a new series on our channel dedicated to strategic management and digital transformation. And the first episode will focus specifically on strategic planning. Remarkably, I became deeply interested in strategic planning only a few years ago, after I personally lost more than 200,000 USD, because I didn't have clearly defined milestones in one of my startups. That is why it's now only a systematic approach for me. In this episode, we will cover what types of planning exist and how they differ, why strategy is necessary for business of any size, which schools of strategic planning you should choose, where to start your path to systematic management. If you value practical advice without fluff, hit like. YouTube will show this episode to more entrepreneurs. Let's have a look at how strategic planning began. In the 5th century before Christ, the Chinese military strategist and philosopher Sun Tzu, in his work The Art of War, described planning, management, and deception as the art of warfare. You could say it was the first mention of the craft we now call strategy. But the very word strategy comes from the Greek strategia, meaning the art of general. The first work on the strategic planning as scientific approach began appearing in 1911, when Frederick Taylor published the Principles of Scientific Management. Since then, thousands of academic and popular works have been devoted to strategic planning in organizations. Businesses, in turn, tried to stay on the wave, experimented and adapted popular approaches. At that time, there was no such thing as correct strategic planning, nor were there sets of rules one had to follow in specific business niches and market conditions. By the way, share what strategic mistakes you have already lived through. Your story might save someone's business. And relatively recently, in 1998, an enormous effort concluded that analyzed leading academic works as well as the strategic planning experience of thousands of enterprises. This made it possible, after synthesizing all the knowledge, to formalize and describe in detail the 10 key schools of strategic planning. All this colossal work was done by Henry Mintzberg, who can without exaggeration be called the founder of the modern system approach to strategic thinking. His classification of strategic schools became a bridge between theory and practice, uniting the best ideas from scholarship and real business experience. Mintzberg showed that strategy is not only a formal process of analysis, but also an art that includes intuition, learning, and adaptation. Each strategic school offers a unique view of how organizations can shape, implement, and adapt their strategies depending on their goals, environment, and stage of development. In this video, I'll introduce you to each school of strategic planning and help answer the question, why does this matter specifically for your business? And for those who watch to the end, a cool bonus awaits. I have prepared a simple handy tool, which is a short test that will help you determine which school of strategic planning fits your business best. After passing it, you will understand where to start your journey towards systematic strategic management to make your business more successful and effective. If the topic is relevant for you, hit like right now and subscribe. There is much more content ahead on digital transformation and real business cases. Before we dive into the schools of strategic planning, it's important to grasp the core idea. Strategy is not rigid rules, but a flexible process. Success in strategic management comes when you adapt approaches to your goals and circumstances. The schools of strategic planning are not mutually exclusive. You can combine their best ideas to craft a unique strategy for your business. I want to give you tools and inspiration that strategy becomes not just a plan, but a powerful engine of growth and adaptation in a rapidly changing world. Before we go deep into each strategic school, let's answer: what is strategic planning and what other types of planning exist? First, it's worth noting that any type of planning can be short, mid, or long term, and the types differ not by time horizon but by focus. Operational planning focuses on the current activity, ensuring the business runs smoothly here and now. As an example, a coffee shop owner schedules which baristas work which shifts and how much milk and beans to buy for the week. Or a manufacturing firm assesses which equipment will become obsolete in the next 6 to 12 months and plans replacement or upgrades. They allocate budget, plan shop floor downtime, and schedule commissioning and testing of new equipment. In other words, operational planning keeps the business coordinated and uninterrupted without changing its processes. Tactical planning can change existing processes and introduce new ones, but it does not change the business model. Honestly, I myself fought a tactical war in the market for a long time before I realized, without clear vision and a plan, any success will be temporary. Let's have a look at the real-life example. The coffee shop decides that over the quarter it needs to increase sales of seasonal drinks by 20%. To do this, they launch specials, train staff on new recipes, and plan a social media campaign. Or a manufacturing company plans to digitize the product development process, write job descriptions, and implement KPIs. That is, tactical planning isn't about keeping the business running. It's about concrete goals achieved without radically rebuilding the business. For example, systematizing and formalizing business processes, writing job descriptions, KPIs, conducting performance reviews and training, setting new sales targets and launching new ad campaigns, introducing new products on an existing product line, etc. Strategic planning can touch the business model itself, change the company's key development directions, and form a long-term vision. Put simply, strategic planning answers where are we going and what do we want to be over the time, and often requires significant restructuring of the business. For instance, a coffee chain decides to enter international markets and launches its own line of coffee accessories, changing not only the assortment but the entire customer service model. This requires new distribution channels, a brand new strategy, and adapted hiring process. A large manufacturing company decides to become a technological leader in its industry. It creates a separate R&D unit, migrates to digital platforms, changes the organizational structure, and prepares staff for new challenges. In other words, strategic planning isn't just about changing individual processes or setting mid-term goals. It's about predetermining a new direction for the business or even fully transforming its model. We have seen that strategy is the framework, and both operational and tactical plans are formed on it. Strategic planning sets the overall direction, and tactics plus daily operations help turn long-term goals into reality. Operational planning answers what needs to be done so work runs as it should. Tactical planning answers how do we squeeze the most out of what we are doing now. Strategic planning answers what else should we be doing. To sum up, if business is a journey, Operational planning is fueling, meals, and lodging. Tactical planning is charting the optimal route, and strategic planning is choosing the final destination and waypoints. There are other types of planning: financial, project, scenario, and so on. We will possibly discuss those in other videos, but for now, using simple analogies, we will begin reviewing the existing schools of strategic planning, and in this episode, we will cover the first four: the design school, the planning school, the positioning school, and the entrepreneurial school. So the first school is design one. Picture an artist crafting a masterpiece, accounting for every detail and context. The design school believes strategy should be unique, like a work of art. It rests on simple but powerful principle. Understand where you are now, where you want to go, and what it will take to get there. In other words, we match an organization's strengths and weaknesses with market opportunities and threats. This isn't so much hard analysis as a creative process where the leader is a visionary, building a bridge between the company and its market. Here is what this approach is really about. First, strategy is born as a concept in the leader's mind. Second, it's about creating a unique match between internal capabilities and external challenges. And third, the process itself is simple and informal. This approach works great for companies searching for their place in the market or going through major changes like leadership transition or brand relaunch. It's also invaluable for small businesses whose leaders deeply understand their niche and can adapt strategy quickly. If you would like to apply this approach, you should start with the SWOT analysis as foundation. Use it to identify your strengths and weaknesses and to understand which market opportunities to seize and which threats to guard against. This gives you a clear snapshot of where you are. Next is environmental analysis. Look at the market, competitors, and trends. Which niches are open? What changes are coming? This reveals where your business can build an edge. Then, shape the vision. The leader creates a clear picture of the company's future. This isn't just a dream, it's an inspiring, attainable target that becomes a guiding star. After that, develop the strategy, the detailed plan to turn vision into reality. It should be simple and understandable so everyone knows their role. Above all, clarity and simplicity. Put the strategy on paper, make it accessible to everyone, avoid needless complexity so every step is clear and executable. Let's see how this works in real companies. McDonald's. Ray Kroc spotted the business's core strengths: process standardization and consistent product quality. He designed a unique fast service model where every step, from cooking to delivery, was tightly scripted. This design-driven simplicity and focus on core strengths fueled rapid growth and global success. IKEA. Ingvar Kamprad aligned internal capabilities with the global trend toward affordable functional furniture. He introduced self-assembly and clean design. The result, global expansion where product uniqueness became the brand's heart and set IKEA apart. Steve Jobs returned to Apple, a classic design move. Jobs rethought everything from the product line to the visual identity, essentially redrawing the whole company. Simplicity, visual clarity, and a focus on product uniqueness became the new course that turned Apple into a tech leader. Talking about some fun statistics. Harvard Business School research shows companies using SWOT principles are 30% more likely to hit strategic targets, and 72% of small businesses that formed strategy via leaders' vision reported revenue growth in the first 2 years. Next one is the planning school. Imagine a serious architectural bureau where every millimeter of a future building is drawn in precise blueprints. The planning school treats strategy just as formally and meticulously. It relies on systematic data gathering, forecasting, and clearly written instructions to build the structure of a business on a solid, calculated foundation. According to Henry Mintzberg, the planning school tries to move strategy development into a separate analytical lab where everything follows precise procedures. Here, formal planning is key. Define goals, set tasks, and try to account for all risks and scenarios in advance. If the design school's hero is a visionary relying on inspiration, the planning school's hero is an engineer relying on analysis and exact calculations. Now, let's answer the question when to apply this approach. First, it works for companies in a relatively stable environment where things don't change every week, as well as the organizations with the resources and experience to dedicate a team of strategists or consultants, like big manufacturers, banks, government entities. And the situation where risk must be minimized, like entering a foreign market or a large investment program. Let's break this approach down into clear, manageable steps. Step 1. Data gathering and analysis. First, create an analytical snapshot. Market competitors, internal resources, finances. The goal is to collect as many facts as possible. Step 2. Set clear goals. Based on the data, define exactly what you want to achieve. Your goals should be specific, measurable, and time-bound. Think revenue targets, market share, or product milestones. Step 3. Form strategic plans. Now, with goals in place, planners can start building scenarios and outlining a path forward. This includes defining what resources are needed, assigning responsibilities, setting deadlines, and identifying how success will be measured. Step 4. Verification and alignment. At this point, leadership steps into the review of the plans. They may refine forecasts, adjust budgets, and make sure everything lines up with the broader business vision. It's a key step to ensure alignment across the board. Step 5. Execution and control. Once the plan is approved, it's time to act. Implementation begins, but it doesn't stop there. You need to regularly review performance metrics and make adjustments to stay on track. Let's take a look at a few real-world examples. General Motors. Under Alfred Sloan, GM institutionalized large-scale formal planning. Each division, like Chevrolet, Pontiac, etc., received clear financial and production targets, with results reviewed quarterly. This helped GM hold strong positions in the 1960s US market. General Electric. Jack Welch introduced formal strategic sessions and clear KPI system. Top manager defended detailed plans for each line and execution was tightly controlled. This drove massive market cap growth and made GE one of the world's most influential corporations. Boeing. Facing Airbus competition and aircraft development complexity, Boeing enforced rigorous planning for new models. Detailed requirements, schedules, and gates cut costs and sped time to market. Now some fun statistics. A PwC study found 63% of Global 2000 companies run multi-year formal planning cycles and 56% of them reported steady profit growth over the past 3 years. Now let's head to the third school, which is the positioning one. Imagine a medieval battlefield. There is terrain, there are armies, and everything depends on where you position your forces and whom you engage. The positioning school views markets the same way. The task is to find the right position in the competitive arena and hold it. It's highly formal and based on the idea that you can analyze industry structure and pick an optimal strategy. Per Mintzberg, the positioning school turns strategy into a logical game focused on market and competitor analysis. It leans on Michael Porter's famous 5 forces: threat of entrance, industry rivalry, supplier power, buyer power, threat of substitutes. Advocates believe you can identify a winning strategy by analytically sizing up the market, mapping strengths and weaknesses, exploring moves, and choosing the most promising position. It's applicable to large companies or mid-sized firms aiming for serious market share and valuing deep industry analysis, to organizations in highly competitive markets like IT services, telecom, or banking. Also to situations where the market is relatively stable and key success factors like price, quality, brand are well defined. And companies needing to clarify niche versus mass, like peak cost leadership or product exclusivity. How to apply positioning planning? First, study the industry and analyze competitors. Start with a broad market scan, main rivals, their strengths, strategies, pricing, and shares. Then, define key success factors. Identify what truly drives victory here: lowest unit cost, unique product attributes, a powerful brand. The next step is to form hypotheses about possible positions. Consider scenarios like cheaper than competitors, best quality, a narrow niche with premium service, etc. Then assess risk and choose a strategy. Compare each scenario by investment, payback, and market reactions. The position where benefits outweigh risks and where you can create an advantage becomes the priority. And the last one is to execute the chosen position. Align the organization around it: products, processes, marketing, and governance. Everything should reinforce your market position. Now let's walk through a few real cases. Procter & Gamble. To win in saturated, fast-moving consumer goods market, Procter & Gamble analyzed rivals and key success factors: brand recognition, massive advertising, distribution strengths. They doubled down on scaling flagship brands like Tide and Ariel, securing top ranks in household goods. Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. The cola wars are textbook case. Coca-Cola, with its classic brand and global presence, leaned into the emotion of the original taste, while Pepsi went after youth with aggressive advertising to grab share. Both literally mapped a battlefield and played for superior position. Zara. Inditex conquered fast fashion by positioning as fastest to trends. Constant collection refreshes at accessible price. While rivals updated 2 to 4 times a year, Zara did it weekly, building a durable image of the freshest fashion. According to McKinsey, among companies that rose to industry leadership over the last decade, over 60% bet on sharply defined positioning along one or two core factors, like price, quality, or service. And the last school for today is the entrepreneurial school. Picture a bold trailblazer heading into unknown lands with a backpack, relying on intuition and inspiration. The entrepreneurial school believes strategy is born in the mind of charismatic leader who senses future trends and sees opportunities others miss. The approach relies on energetic innovation, constant idea hunting, and readiness to take smart risks. Mintzberg describes the entrepreneurial approach as a creative impulse from a strong individual or small team where a vision of the future matters more than detailed plans and analytics. Advocates believe success goes to those who first feel the wind shift and dare to act boldly ahead of others. Unlike planning or positioning, the bet here isn't on procedure but on intuition, provocative ideas, and the ability to pivot fast. So, when to apply this school? It works for startups and small businesses, where the founder's role is huge and structures aren't yet bureaucratic. Also, it works great for innovation units within large corporations like new R&D centers or internal venture teams. Also, it works great for dynamic markets requiring rapid adaptation like IT, biotech, fintech, and so on. And companies aiming for fast scaling, leaning into experimentation and creativity. When does it make sense to apply this approach? This method shines when you're building something new, a product, a startup, even a movement. Here is how it typically unfolds. First, craft an inspiring vision. The leader or a team articulates a bold idea. What new value will we bring? And how do we want to change the world? This vision energizes people and investors. Then comes relentless ideation and experimentation. The school encourages a try and see mindset. Build prototypes, test hypotheses. Mistakes are part of the journey. Next, adapt strategy on the fly. As early results come in, adjust the product, business model, or target audience. Flexibility beats rigid plans here. Leaders play a key role here as inspirers. Much of the success rests on a person or tight-knit group who sees market potential and rallies the team to believe. And finally, scale up. Once the model clicks, the entrepreneur summons and grows the business, investment, partners, new markets. Now, let's see what this looks like in the real world. Apple. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started in garage building early personal computers. Their revolutionary idea makes the computer a personal device for everyone. With little formal business planning but huge product faith, they laid Apple's foundation. Amazon. Jeff Bezos saw the potential of online sales before the internet went mainstream. He launched an online bookstore based on simple logic. Books are easy to ship and the US market is huge. The rest is the story of Amazon's explosive growth, which began with entrepreneurial instinct more than exhaustive analysis. SpaceX. Elon Musk set out to make space more accessible and took a risk in a domain dominated by governments and aerospace giants. Reusable rockets, vertical landings, sharply lower launch costs, entrepreneurial audacity that made SpaceX today's private space leader. Kaufman Foundation found that among hyper-growth startups, like 5-time revenue in 3 years, 85% used an entrepreneurial approach, test then pivot if needed. If you find the school's approach useful, press the like button. That's the signal to continue the series. Today, we have figured out why strategy isn't rules but a flexible process, and we have covered the first 4 schools: design, planning, positioning, and entrepreneurship. Who are you today? A visionary, a process engineer, or a field commander? Comment below which of the first 4 schools speaks to you and why. I am going to read every comment and reply personally. In the next episode, we will unpack 6 more schools: the cognitive school, learning, power, culture, environment, and configuration. I'll show how to choose an approach for your business, give you a simple test to find your best fit school, and explain where to start the implementation.